What if the story of civilization did not begin beside the Nile, between the Tigris and Euphrates, or in the monumental cities of ancient Mesoamerica? What if those civilizations were not the first great centers of human knowledge, but survivors of an older world whose name was eventually erased by time, rising oceans, and the collapse of forgotten coastlines? From space, the Pacific Ocean covers an immense part of Earth. Vast blue distances separate Asia, Australia, North America, South America, and thousands of islands scattered across the water. Hawaii rises from volcanic chains in the north. The Mariana Islands mark the edge of one of the deepest regions on the planet. Polynesian islands appear as isolated points across an ocean so large that entire continents could seem small beside it. Modern maps show no hidden landmass occupying this enormous region. Scientific vessels have crossed the Pacific with sonar. Satellites have measured the shape of the seafloor. Geologists have identified trenches, volcanic ridges, oceanic plate boundaries, and submerged mountain chains. Yet more than a century ago, a very different map captured the imagination of the public. That map showed a gigantic lost continent spread across the Pacific Ocean. Its name was Mu. According to the legend, Mu was not merely another ancient kingdom. It was described as the mother civilization, the original center from which religion, architecture, science, symbols, and organized society spread across the world. In later versions of the theory, Mu existed before Egypt, before Mesopotamia, before the Maya, and before nearly every civilization recognized by modern archaeology. Ancient cities supposedly stood across tropical plains. Rivers crossed furrow valleys. Monumental temples dominated wide public squares. Ships moved through coastal harbors and artificial channels. Millions of people allegedly lived under a common spiritual system. From this central civilization, travelers were said to have carried knowledge to Asia, the Americas, Africa, and the islands of the Pacific. Some later theorists went even further. They proposed that Mu had received knowledge from beings who came from the sky. In these interpretations, the inhabitants of Mu were not simply members of an advanced human society. They were described as participants in humanity's earliest contact with extraterrestrial visitors. No archaeological excavation has confirmed this vision. No verified city of Mu has been found beneath the Pacific. No recovered archive has demonstrated that a global civilization existed there during the period claimed by its defenders. But the absence of proof did not prevent the legend from becoming one of the most influential stories in modern alternative history. The idea of Mu began to take shape during the 19th century, a period when European and American explorers were entering ancient sites with limited knowledge of the cultures they were studying. Archaeology was still developing into a scientific discipline. Maya writing had not yet been deciphered accurately. Many researchers interpreted inscriptions through personal theories, biblical chronologies, classical myths, or assumptions about lost civilizations. Ancient ruins were often treated as puzzles waiting for an external explanation. When investigators saw monumental architecture in Egypt, Central America, and Asia, some believed that these distant cultures must have inherited their knowledge from a common source. Similarities between pyramids, symbols, religious stories, and astronomical observations were frequently used to support theories of global migration from a vanished homeland. One of the men who entered this world of speculation was Augustus Le Plongeon. Le Plongeon was born in France in 1825. He became a photographer, traveler, amateur archaeologist, and one of the earliest researchers to document Maya ruins through photography. During the second half of the 19th century, he and his wife, Alice Dixon Le Plongeon, traveled through the Yucatan Peninsula. The Maya cities they encountered were surrounded by dense vegetation. Stone temples rose above tropical forests. Carved figures covered walls and columns. Stairways led to elevated platforms. Weathered inscriptions remained visible under sunlight and shadow. Many structures had been damaged by centuries of rain, plant growth, erosion, and human activity. Le Plongeon photographed these ruins and made molds of carved reliefs. He measured buildings, copied symbols into notebooks, and attempted to reconstruct the history of the people who created them. His work preserved important visual records. However, his interpretations moved far beyond what the evidence could support. At Chichen Itza, Plongeon examined monuments associated with Maya political and religious life. He studied carved scenes and attempted to translate Maya inscriptions at a time when the writing system was not yet properly understood. Modern researchers now know that Maya writing is a complex logosyllabic system. It combines signs representing complete words with signs representing syllables. Its decipherment required generations of linguistic comparison, archaeological context, historical reconstruction, and the identification of royal names, calendar dates, political events, and phonetic values. Plongeon did not possess that knowledge. He interpreted the inscriptions through speculative methods and believed that they preserved the history of an ancient royal family. Within his reconstruction, he described a queen named Mu and a prince he called Ko. He connected Maya history to Egypt, Atlantis, and a lost civilization that he associated with the name Mu. His reading was not accepted by later Maya scholars. The symbols he examined did not provide reliable evidence for the continent he described. The language he claimed to translate was not interpreted according to the linguistic structure now recognized in Maya inscriptions. Even so, Plongeon became convinced that the Maya civilization was much older than conventional history allowed. He argued that Maya knowledge had traveled across the Atlantic and influenced ancient Egypt. In his theory, survivors or colonists from a lost American or Pacific civilization carried architecture, religious symbols, and sacred knowledge into other regions of the world. This reversed the assumptions of many 19th-century scholars, who often claimed that American civilizations must have received their knowledge from Europe, Africa, or Asia. Plongeon instead placed the Maya world near the beginning of global civilization. He believed that similarities between distant monuments were signs of migration. A carved symbol in Yucatan could be compared with an Egyptian religious image. A stepped platform in Mesoamerica could be compared with a pyramid in Africa. A mythical flood could be connected to stories from another continent. Similar artistic forms were interpreted as fragments of one original tradition. But resemblance alone does not demonstrate direct contact. Different societies can create comparable structures because they face similar engineering problems. A monument with a broad base and narrowing upper levels is naturally stable. Solar symbols can appear in many cultures because every human society observes the sun. Flood traditions can emerge in different regions because rivers, coastlines, storms, tsunamis, and rising seas have affected communities across the planet. To establish direct cultural transmission, archaeologists require more than visual similarity. They look for securely dated objects, inscriptions, imported materials, shared technologies, identifiable trade routes, human remains, genetic connections, or layers of occupation showing contact between populations. Plongeon did not produce that kind of evidence for Mu. He produced photographs, drawings, interpretations, and an elaborate historical theory. His writings attracted attention because they offered a dramatic explanation for ancient monuments. Rather than treating the Maya as the creators of their own civilization through centuries of local development, his theory placed them within a global story of migration, destruction, and survival. In this version of the past, the ruins of Yucatan were not isolated achievements. They were remnants of a civilization connected to a much older source. Plongeon believed that this source had been destroyed by catastrophe. He associated Mu with a lost homeland whose survivors spread across the world. According to his interpretation, these survivors carried knowledge into Egypt and other ancient regions. Temples, pyramids, rituals, and sacred symbols were presented as echoes of the same vanished culture. The theory appeared during a period when lost continent stories were already popular. Atlantis had been discussed for centuries because of Plato's dialogues. Explorers and occult writers searched for evidence of vanished lands. Geological knowledge was still changing. The movement of continents had not yet been explained through modern plate tectonics. The shape and age of the ocean floor remained poorly understood. Large unknown regions encouraged large theories. The Pacific Ocean, in particular, appeared capable of hiding almost anything. Sailors crossed distances where no land was visible for days or weeks. Volcanic islands rose abruptly from deep water. Coral atolls formed rings around lagoons. Earthquakes and eruptions demonstrated that the region was geologically active. To 19th-century observers, these features could be interpreted as the remains of a much larger landmass. Small islands were imagined as mountain peaks from a drowned continent. Volcanic destruction was used to explain its disappearance. Oral traditions about floods, ancestral voyages, and islands lost beneath the sea were combined with speculative maps. The result was not one unified ancient tradition, but a modern framework built from many different sources. Plongeon gave the name Mu a place within that framework. His theories suggested that the conventional timeline of civilization was incomplete. Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, China, and Mesoamerica were presented not as independent centers of innovation, but as branches growing from an older root. This idea was powerful because it offered a simple answer to a complicated question. Why did monumental architecture appear in different parts of the world? Why did ancient societies observe the stars? Why did flood stories appear in distant cultures? Why did rulers claim descent from gods? Why did so many civilizations build temples on elevated platforms? The theory of a mother civilization connected these questions through one vanished origin. But a satisfying explanation is not necessarily a correct one. Modern archaeology reveals that civilizations developed through long processes involving agriculture, population growth, trade, conflict, environmental change, political organization, religious authority, and technological experimentation. Egyptian civilization emerged from communities that developed along the Nile. Mesopotamian cities grew in the river valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates. Maya societies developed through complex regional histories in Mesoamerica. Polynesian cultures expanded across the Pacific through extraordinary navigation, settlement, adaptation, and local innovation. These histories contain contact, migration, exchange, and transformation, but they do not require a single global civilization beneath the Pacific. Plongeon's proposed translations were gradually rejected as Maya writing became better understood. Researchers learned to identify dynastic records, military events, ritual statements, royal accessions, calendar information, and references to specific cities. The inscriptions described Maya rulers, gods, ancestors, alliances, conflicts, and ceremonies. They did not reveal a verified history of a Pacific continent called Mu. Plongeon's ideas moved outside mainstream scholarship. Yet they did not disappear. The mystery remained attractive because the Pacific still contained ruins, isolated islands, monumental statues, and oral traditions that could be placed inside the story. The name Mu became detached from the specific inscriptions Plongeon had studied. It grew into a symbol of everything that might have existed before recorded history. Writers began to imagine Mu as a tropical continent with advanced cities. Some described its inhabitants as peaceful spiritual teachers. Others portrayed them as master builders, navigators, astronomers, or keepers of a universal religion. Later authors added lost technologies, energy systems, and extraterrestrial contact. Each generation reshaped Mu according to its own questions. During the 19th century, Mu was connected to comparative mythology and lost continents. During the early 20th century, it became associated with global diffusion, occult traditions, and forgotten wisdom. Later, it was absorbed into the ancient astronaut hypothesis. The story changed because no archaeological site controlled its boundaries. Without a confirmed location, every unexplained monument could be connected to Mu. Without original documents, every unusual symbol could be interpreted as part of its language. Without a verified timeline, Mu could be placed tens of thousands of years in the past. The lack of evidence became part of the mystery rather than the end of the theory. Defenders could claim that the civilization disappeared so completely that only indirect traces survived. Critics could point out that a civilization capable of influencing the entire world should have left identifiable artifacts, settlements, biological connections, or linguistic evidence. Between these two positions, the legend continued to grow. The idea became even more dramatic when Mu was connected to stories of gods descending from the sky. Ancient societies often described divine beings arriving from the heavens. Mesopotamian texts described gods who controlled kingship, fertility, war, storms, and cosmic order. Maya traditions preserve stories of creation and sacred ancestors. Indian literature described divine vehicles and celestial journeys. Polynesian traditions told of ancestral voyagers, culture heroes, and powerful beings connected to the natural world. Within their original settings, these accounts belong to religion, mythology, ritual, and cultural memory. Modern alternative writers interpreted them differently. They suggested that divine beings were misunderstood extraterrestrial visitors. Celestial vehicles became spacecraft. Gifts from gods became advanced technology. Sacred transformations became genetic experiments. Myths of creation were read as records of scientific intervention. Mu was gradually placed at the center of this interpretation. If there had been an original civilization, theorists argued, perhaps it had not developed alone. Perhaps its knowledge came from visitors from another world. A speculative reconstruction of Mu might show monumental cities beside wide rivers. Adult inhabitants could cross stone plazas surrounded by towers and temples. Unknown objects could appear in the sky. Luminous craft could hover above a coastal city. Non-human figures could observe human communities from elevated platforms. But such scenes would represent a modern hypothesis, not a historical reconstruction supported by excavation. No verified artifact from Mu has been recovered. No confirmed ancient text identifies Mu as a center of extraterrestrial contact. No genetic evidence shows that humans received DNA from a non-human species. The images are powerful because they combine familiar monuments with unanswered questions. They do not become evidence merely because they can be visualized. The original theory remained vulnerable to a central problem. Where was the proof? Plongeon had photographed real Maya ruins. He had examined real monuments. He had copied real inscriptions. But the civilization he constructed from them was not confirmed by later research. His proposed history depended on translations that specialists rejected. His global connections depended on similarities that could be explained through independent development. His lost homeland remained absent from the archaeological record. By the end of the 19th century, Mu was an intriguing idea without a secure foundation. It needed a new storyteller. It needed someone who would claim not merely to interpret ruins, but to have seen original records. It needed maps, dates, population estimates, cities, sacred symbols, and a complete description of the lost world. That man was James Churchward. Churchward would transform Mu from a disputed interpretation of Maya inscriptions into a detailed account of humanity's first civilization. He claimed that the evidence had not been found in Yucatan. He claimed that it had been preserved inside an ancient temple in India. According to his story, a priest showed him a collection of tablets written in a forgotten language. These objects supposedly described the creation of the world, the origin of humanity, and the civilization from which all others descended. Churchward called them the Naacal Tablets. No independent scholar would be permitted to examine the original collection. No museum would display them. No archaeological expedition would document the chamber where they were supposedly stored. Yet from these unseen objects, Churchward would construct one of the most elaborate lost continent theories ever published. Mu was about to acquire its cities, its people, its symbols, its catastrophe, and its alleged connection to the deepest origins of humanity. Decades after Augustus Plongeon connected Maya ruins to a lost civilization called Mu, another writer transformed the theory into a complete history of the human world. His name was James Churchward. Churchward described himself as a British military officer, traveler, engineer, and researcher. According to his own account, he served in India during the 19th century, where he developed a friendship with an adult priest connected to an ancient temple. The story is known primarily through Churchward's own publications. Independent documentation does not confirm every detail as he presented it. In a historical reconstruction of his account, Churchward enters an old temple in India. Stone columns surround a dark interior chamber. Oil lamps illuminate carved walls. An adult priest leads him through a protected passage and opens a sealed compartment. Inside, according to Churchward, were ancient clay tablets covered with unfamiliar symbols. He later called these objects the Naacal Tablets. Churchward claimed that the tablets had been written by members of an ancient priestly order known as the Naacals. He described them as sacred records preserved for thousands of years and said they contained information about the creation of Earth, the appearance of humanity, and the rise of the first great civilization. The priest allegedly told Churchward that the symbols belonged to a forgotten language. Churchward called that language Naga-Maya. In a speculative reconstruction, the adult priest places several tablets on a stone table. Churchward studies geometric marks, human figures, solar emblems, and lines arranged in repeated patterns. He copies each symbol into notebooks and compares one tablet with another. Churchward claimed that learning to interpret the inscriptions required years of study. He described the symbols as part of a sacred language that connected India, Mesoamerica, Egypt, Polynesia, and other ancient regions. He believed that related signs appeared in monuments and religious traditions around the world. No recognized historical language called Naga-Maya has been verified by modern linguistics. No complete grammatical system, bilingual inscription, or independently translated text has confirmed Churchward's interpretation. The original Naacal tablets were never presented for examination by archaeologists, linguists, or museum specialists. Everything known about their alleged content comes through Churchward. That did not prevent him from building a detailed narrative around them. In 1926, Churchward published The Lost Continent of Mu. He later expanded his ideas in The Children of Mu and The Sacred Symbols of Mu. The books appeared on tables beside maps, drawings, photographs, and reproductions of ancient symbols. Their pages showed conceptual diagrams of a vanished continent and proposed connections between distant cultures. Churchward described Mu as a gigantic landmass occupying a broad region of the Pacific Ocean. His conceptual map placed it among areas associated with the Mariana Islands, Hawaii, Easter Island, and Polynesia. The exact boundaries changed between diagrams and later interpretations, but Mu was generally imagined as an enormous tropical continent. According to Churchward, Mu existed for tens of thousands of years. He placed its civilization within a period extending roughly from 50,000 years ago until its destruction approximately 12,000 years ago. These dates were his claims, not conclusions established by archaeology. A speculative reconstruction of Churchward's Mu shows green plains stretching toward distant mountains. Wide rivers cross tropical valleys. Monumental temples rise above large plazas. Coastal cities face the Pacific Ocean. Adult inhabitants move through streets bordered by stone buildings and cultivated gardens. 7 major cities appear across the reconstructed continent because Churchward described Mu as having 7 great urban centers. Ships cross rivers and coastal channels. Farmers work on fertile land. Adult builders raise ceremonial structures. Navigators prepare vessels near protected harbors. These images represent Churchward's theory. They are not reconstructions based on excavated ruins. Churchward claimed that Mu had a population of approximately 64 million people. He described its inhabitants as members of several human groups living under one dominant government and one spiritual tradition. He often called the population the Naacal people or the Children of Mu. In his narrative, Mu possessed an organized society, advanced knowledge, extensive navigation, and colonies spread across the ancient world. These colonies supposedly carried sacred symbols, architectural methods, religious principles, and scientific knowledge to other continents. Churchward believed that civilizations in Egypt, India, Mesoamerica, Asia, and the Pacific preserved fragments of this original culture. He compared solar symbols, crosses, serpents, winged figures, temple designs, and geometric marks. Similar signs were treated as evidence of a shared origin. Modern archaeology approaches such comparisons more cautiously. A circle can represent the sun in many societies without direct contact. Serpents appear in mythology because they exist across large parts of the world. Crossed lines and geometric forms can emerge independently because they are simple visual patterns. To demonstrate cultural transmission, researchers require chronological and material connections. The proposed source civilization must exist before the cultures it allegedly influenced. There must be evidence of travel, trade, migration, shared tools, imported materials, related languages, or identifiable genetic relationships. Churchward did not provide a verified archaeological sequence connecting Mu to every civilization he mentioned. He instead treated symbolic similarity as a surviving trace of a lost global system. His version of Mu was also spiritually unified. He described a central religious authority led by a figure he called Mu. The title was presented as belonging to a supreme spiritual leader rather than a personal name. Churchward wrote that the people of Mu worshipped a single divine principle through the symbol of the sun. He interpreted solar images in distant cultures as distorted memories of this original religion. Again, these descriptions came from his publications. No temple inscription from Mu has been recovered. No burial, city, palace, harbor, or ceremonial center has been excavated. No object can be securely dated and identified as belonging to Churchward's continent. Yet the detail of the account created an impression of authenticity. Churchward gave Mu rivers, mountains, vegetation, cities, colonies, rulers, symbols, population estimates, and a historical mission. Readers could imagine the continent as a real location. A conceptual view of Mu shows vast coastal plains under warm sunlight. Large stone structures surround open squares. Adult inhabitants gather near temples. Long vessels move across calm water. Mountains rise beneath clouds in the distance. The civilization appears ordered, prosperous, and technologically capable. But the more precise the description became, the more important one question became. Where did these details come from? Churchward said they came from the Naacal Tablets and from symbols he later studied in other parts of the world. However, no independent researcher documented the original Indian collection. The temple was not identified in a way that allowed specialists to recover the objects. The adult priest who supposedly taught Churchward did not leave a separate account. No photographs of the original tablets were produced. No scientific excavation established their age or cultural origin. Churchward published drawings and interpretations, but drawings made by the claimant are not equivalent to authenticated artifacts. An original tablet could be examined for clay composition, manufacturing technique, inscriptions, tool marks, age, and archaeological context. Its symbols could be compared with known writing systems. Its location could be investigated. Without the object, none of these tests can be performed. The missing tablets became the central weakness of Churchward's case. Supporters argued that sacred objects could have remained hidden or been destroyed. Critics argue that an extraordinary historical claim required verifiable evidence. Churchward continued to search for confirmation in monuments, myths, and symbols. Every resemblance seemed to strengthen the structure he had already created. But resemblance could not replace the missing foundation. The Naacal Tablets were presented as the original records of humanity. Yet no one outside Churchward's account could examine them. The civilization of Mu had acquired a complete history. It had not acquired a confirmed archaeological existence. And according to Churchward, this civilization did not decline slowly. It ended in a single catastrophic event. According to James Churchward, the civilization of Mu was destroyed approximately 12,000 years ago. He did not describe a gradual abandonment caused by drought, war, migration, or economic decline. He described the violent death of an entire continent. In a speculative reconstruction of Churchward's account, the first signs appear beneath a calm tropical landscape. The ground trembles below monumental cities. Stone walls shake. Water moves inside canals. Adult inhabitants stop in wide public squares and look toward distant mountains. Then the earthquakes intensify. Deep fractures open across roads and agricultural fields. Buildings collapse near the coast. Volcanic peaks release dark columns of ash. Red lava moves down mountain slopes while lightning flashes inside the eruption clouds. Churchward claimed that underground gas chambers collapsed beneath the continent. In his narrative, powerful geological forces broke the land into separate regions. The Pacific Ocean advanced through the fractures. Large waves crossed coastal settlements. Rivers overflowed their banks. Harbors disappeared beneath turbulent water. Islands formed where higher ground remained above the surface. A reconstructed city of Mu stands beneath a dark sky. Waves enter the streets. Temple platforms vanish underwater. Stone towers collapse as the ground breaks apart. These images belong to Churchward's legend. They are not visual records of a documented event. Churchward wrote that the final destruction happened with terrifying speed. His language transformed Mu into a civilization that disappeared almost overnight. According to his story, millions of people died when the land sank beneath the Pacific. Only small islands remained where mountains had once risen above the continent. This dramatic ending became one of the main reasons Mu entered popular culture. A complete civilization had supposedly existed before recognized history. It had developed knowledge, religion, navigation, and monumental cities. Then one catastrophe erased nearly every physical trace. The theory explained its own lack of evidence. Ruins were absent because they were beneath deep water. Documents were absent because the cities had been destroyed. Survivors were said to have carried only fragments of knowledge to other continents. Any similarity between civilizations could therefore be interpreted as a remnant of Mu. But this explanation created another problem. A civilization with tens of millions of inhabitants would require enormous systems of agriculture, settlement, manufacturing, transportation, burial, and resource extraction. Even after disaster, such a society should leave widespread evidence. Objects might reach neighboring islands. Colonies might preserve recognizable scripts. Human remains might reveal migration. Seafloor surveys might identify submerged continental crust, river valleys, cities, or extensive shallow platforms. No confirmed evidence of this scale has been found. The disappearance of the original Naacal Tablets created additional doubt. Churchward's books remained on a table. Their pages preserved as drawings. But the objects that supposedly supported the entire narrative were nowhere to be examined. Empty museum cases and unmarked archives could not verify their existence. No independent witness produced a complete translation. No archaeological report documented their discovery. Churchward therefore searched for other objects that might support his interpretation. One of the most important connections involved William Niven. Niven was a Scottish-born mineralogist and amateur archaeologist who worked in Mexico during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He conducted excavations in areas near Mexico City, including San Miguel Amantla. Workers removed stone and clay objects from the soil. Some pieces contained carved or painted symbols. Niven collected thousands of artifacts from sites whose archaeological context was not always documented according to modern standards. Churchward became interested in a group of objects commonly called Niven's tablets. He believed their markings resembled symbols he had attributed to the Naacal Tablets. On a table, Churchward compared drawings from Mexico with signs published in his own books. Circles, lines, grids, faces, and geometric patterns appeared side by side. Churchward interpreted them as records connected to Mu. He argued that the symbols confirmed the existence of a global sacred language and preserved knowledge brought to Mexico by descendants or colonists of the lost continent. Archaeologists and linguists did not accept this conclusion as proof. The objects lacked the clear linguistic structure required to demonstrate a complete writing system connected to Churchward's Naga-Maya. Their archaeological contexts were disputed, and the proposed translations depended heavily on Churchward's own interpretive framework. A symbol cannot be translated merely because it resembles another drawing. Researchers must identify repeated patterns, sound values, word order, grammar, names, dates, and relationships to known languages. Ideally, the script must appear in a secure archaeological context and be supported by multiple inscriptions. Churchward's comparisons did not meet those standards. Some critics question whether every object associated with Niven came from a reliable excavation. Others argued that the symbols could represent decoration, local notation, religious imagery, modern alteration, or objects removed from their original context. The debate did not establish a direct connection to Mu. Niven's discoveries were real objects. Churchward's interpretation of them remained controversial. This distinction is essential. Archaeology confirms that complex societies existed in ancient Mexico. It confirms that these societies produced ceramics, sculptures, monuments, symbols, and ritual objects. It does not confirm that those objects came from a Pacific mother civilization. Churchward treated the Mexican tablets as a second source supporting the missing Indian records. But the second source was interpreted through the same unverified system as the first. The reasoning became circular. The Naacal Tablets supposedly prove Mu because Churchward translated them. Niven's tablets supposedly confirm the Naacal Tablets because Churchward believed their symbols were related. Neither set of interpretations was independently demonstrated. Still, the story continued to expand. If Mu had broken into islands, perhaps its highest mountains remained visible across the Pacific. If survivors had escaped, perhaps their descendants lived in isolated communities. If monumental statues appeared on a remote island, perhaps those statues preserved a memory of the lost continent. One location seemed especially powerful. Far from major continental landmasses, Easter Island rose from the Pacific Ocean. Its shorelines were guarded by enormous stone figures. To many writers, the Moai looked like silent witnesses to a forgotten world. Easter Island is one of the most isolated inhabited islands on Earth. Known to its indigenous people as Rapa Nui, the island lies in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, thousands of kilometers from South America and other major population centers. From the air, Rapa Nui appears as a small volcanic triangle surrounded by an immense blue horizon. Along its coast, monumental stone figures stand on ceremonial platforms. These statues are the Moai. The Moai were created by the Rapa Nui people, primarily between the 13th and 16th centuries. They are confirmed human achievements produced within Polynesian culture. Most Moai were carved from volcanic tuff at Reno Raraku, a volcanic crater that served as the island's principal quarry. The slopes of Reno Raraku still contain incomplete statues. Some remain attached to the bedrock. Others stand partially buried in volcanic soil. Tool marks reveal how adult Rapa Nui sculptors shaped the stone using harder basalt implements. A historical reconstruction shows adult workers carving a long face, heavy brow, prominent nose, narrow lips, and elongated torso into the quarry wall. The sculptors did not require machines from a lost civilization. They used skill, planning, labor, stone tools, ropes, and detailed knowledge passed through generations. Many completed Moai weigh several tons. Some are significantly larger. The tallest statue successfully erected, known as Paro, stood close to 10 meters high and weighed approximately 80 tons. An unfinished statue at Reno Raraku would have been far larger if completed. The size of the monuments created a practical mystery. How were they moved from the quarry to ceremonial platforms across the island? Rapa Nui oral traditions preserve the idea that the statues walked. For generations, outsiders treated this statement as mythology or evidence of supernatural power. Modern experiments showed that the description may preserve a practical memory. Researchers attached ropes to a replica Moai and organized adult teams on opposite sides. By pulling alternately, they made the statue lean and rotate from side to side. The replica moved forward while remaining upright. From a distance, the stone figure appeared to walk. This method does not prove that every Moai was transported in exactly the same way. Different statues, routes, and historical periods may have required different techniques. Other proposals involve wooden sleds, rollers, lubricated tracks, or combinations of ropes and timber. Archaeologists continue to study roads, statue bases, damaged examples, and oral traditions. The important point is that the Moai can be understood through human engineering and Rapa Nui knowledge. The statues also had cultural meaning. They represented important ancestors and were placed on platforms called ahu. Many originally faced inland, watching over communities rather than looking toward the open ocean. Their power was connected to ancestry, authority, protection, and mana, a spiritual force recognized in Polynesian traditions. Later damage, political conflict, environmental pressure, social transformation, European contact, disease, enslavement, and colonial disruption altered life on the island. The Moai were not isolated objects left by an unknown race. They belonged to a living cultural history. Nevertheless, Easter Island became strongly connected to Mu. Its remote location encouraged speculation. The island's small size seemed inconsistent to some early writers with the scale of its statues. They assumed that a larger population or more advanced civilization must have existed there. Instead of recognizing Polynesian navigation and local engineering, theorists proposed that Rapa Nui was a surviving mountaintop of a drowned continent. The Moai were interpreted as monuments created by descendants of Mu. Some writers claim the statues represented members of the lost civilization. Others argue that the Rapa Nui inherited construction knowledge from survivors who reached the island after the catastrophe. No archaeological evidence confirms this ancestry. Settlement patterns, language, material culture, genetics, crops, animals, and navigation traditions connect the Rapa Nui primarily to the broader Polynesian world. Polynesian navigators crossed immense distances using stars, ocean swells, winds, clouds, birds, and accumulated knowledge of the Pacific. Their achievements do not require an earlier civilization beneath the ocean. Supporters of Mu often pointed to the unfinished statues at Reino Uraku. They imagined that work stopped because of sudden catastrophe. But unfinished monuments can result from political change, resource limits, shifts in religious practice, transportation problems, or the abandonment of individual projects. A statue remaining in a quarry is not evidence that a continent sank. Other theorists focused on the long ears, stylized faces, and monumental proportions of the Moai. They compared these features with sculptures from distant cultures. But artistic conventions do not function as biological portraits. Monumental figures often exaggerate human features to express authority, ancestry, or sacred power. The Moai are distinctive because they emerged from Rapa Nui history. Their uniqueness should not be erased by assigning their creation to an imaginary external civilization. Yet the connection to Mu remained emotionally powerful. At sunset, the Moai stand in silence as waves strike the volcanic coast. Behind them lies a small island. Before them stretches one of the largest oceans on Earth. To an observer searching for a lost continent, the scene appears to contain a message. Perhaps the statues once faced cities that vanished beneath the water. Perhaps their ancestors came from a larger homeland. Perhaps Rapa Nui was the final surviving fragment of Mu. These possibilities create mystery, but the confirmed evidence tells a different story. Adult Rapa Nui sculptors carved the statues. Rapa Nui communities transported and raised them. Rapa Nui traditions gave them meaning. The island's isolation does not demonstrate an origin in Mu. It demonstrates the extraordinary capacity of Polynesian people to navigate, settle, organize labor, and create monumental art in a remote environment. The Moai show how quickly a real achievement can be absorbed into a larger legend. The same process occurred with other monuments. Across Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Asia, ancient societies built structures with broad bases and rising sides. To supporters of Mu, these pyramids were not independent creations. They were the architectural signature of the lost mother civilization. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises above the Egyptian desert as one of the most recognizable monuments on Earth. Built during the Old Kingdom for Pharaoh Khufu, it was part of a royal funerary complex created through the organization, labor, engineering, and religious beliefs of ancient Egypt. Thousands of kilometers away, the pyramids of Teotihuacan dominate a broad ceremonial avenue in central Mexico. The Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon belong to a city that developed within a completely different historical, cultural, and religious setting. Across Asia, step temples, burial mounds, brick platforms, and pyramid-shaped monuments appear in regions such as China, Cambodia, Indonesia, and India. From a distance, these structures share a basic geometry. They begin with a broad foundation and rise toward a smaller upper area. Supporters of Mu interpret the repetition as evidence that one ancient civilization distributed architectural knowledge around the world. Conceptual lines cross a map from the Pacific to Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Asia. The monuments appear connected to a central point representing Mu. The image is visually persuasive. It is not archaeological proof. The structures were not all built at the same time. They were not made from the same materials. They did not serve identical purposes. Egyptian pyramids were closely connected to kingship, burial, the afterlife, temples, and royal authority. Mesoamerican pyramids commonly supported temples, ceremonial platforms, and public rituals. Some Asian pyramid-shaped monuments served as tombs. Others were religious structures, terraced sanctuaries, or large earthen mounds. Their builders used local stone, brick, soil, timber, plaster, and different construction methods. A wide base provides stability. As a structure grows taller, reducing the mass at higher levels limits the pressure placed on lower sections. This geometric solution can be discovered independently by societies attempting to build monumental structures without modern steel frames. Engineers examining scale models can demonstrate why steep vertical walls are more difficult to raise to extreme heights using ancient materials. A pyramid distributes weight toward the ground. That practical advantage does not eliminate the possibility of cultural contact in specific cases. Ancient societies traded, migrated, exchanged ideas, and influenced neighboring regions. But a general resemblance between distant monuments does not prove that all pyramids came from one Pacific source. To establish such a connection, archaeologists would need evidence linking builders across oceans. Shared inscriptions, tools, construction measurements, imported objects, dated settlements, genetic relationships, or identifiable voyages could support direct transmission. No verified chain connects every pyramid-building society to Mu. Alternative theories propose that survivors of the lost continent traveled to different regions after the catastrophe. In this scenario, they taught local populations to build monuments aligned with the sun, stars, and cardinal directions. Supporters argue that astronomical precision reflects knowledge inherited from an older civilization. Ancient builders did observe the sky with extraordinary accuracy. But careful observation does not require unknown technology. The movement of shadows, seasonal sunrise points, stars, lunar cycles, and planetary motion can be studied across generations. Agricultural societies had strong reasons to understand seasons and calendars. Another theory presents pyramids as energy centers. Conceptual diagrams show waves moving through stone chambers. Lines of force rise toward the apex. Underground water, minerals, geometry, and electromagnetic fields are combined into a proposed system. Some writers claim that pyramids amplified natural energy, preserved food, altered consciousness, or transmitted power across long distances. No conclusive physical evidence demonstrates that ancient pyramids operated as global energy machines. Chambers, passages, temples, burials, offerings, inscriptions, and settlement remains provide clearer evidence for political, religious, ceremonial, and funerary functions. The energy theory remains speculation. It becomes connected to Mu because Churchward described the lost civilization as technologically and spiritually advanced. Later writers expanded this description far beyond his original claims. They imagined devices using crystals, sound, magnetism, solar power, or unknown forces. No confirmed machine from Mu has been recovered. The theory is built by interpreting monuments through expectations created by the legend. Pyramids become transmitters because Mu is assumed to possess advanced energy. Mu becomes more believable because pyramids are interpreted as transmitters. The evidence circulates inside the theory without independent confirmation. Still, the monuments raise important questions. Why did human societies invest enormous labor in sacred architecture? Why did rulers associate themselves with mountains, the sun, death, and the heavens? Why do elevated platforms appear repeatedly in ceremonial centers? The answers may reflect common human experiences. Mountains dominate landscapes. Height creates visibility. Large structures demonstrate political power. Elevated temples separate sacred space from ordinary ground. Monumental construction unites labor, authority, belief, and public identity. Similar human needs can produce similar forms. The comparison between pyramids therefore reveals two different approaches to the past. One approach searches for a single source. The other studies how different cultures solved comparable problems independently. Mu offers unity. Archaeology reveals diversity. The lost continent theory imagines one civilization spreading knowledge across the world. The evidence shows multiple societies developing through their own environments, traditions, conflicts, and innovations. But architecture was only one part of the argument. Supporters of Mu also looked at mythology. Across ancient texts, gods descended from the heavens, traveled through the sky, created humanity, or brought knowledge to earth. Modern theorists asked whether these stories described something other than divine beings. Perhaps the teachers of Mu did not come from another continent. Perhaps they came from another world. Ancient Mesopotamian reliefs show divine figures wearing elaborate garments and horned crowns. Some stand before sacred trees. Others carry symbolic objects. Winged beings appear beside rulers in ceremonial scenes. Modern ancient astronaut theorists often connect these images to the Anunnaki. In Mesopotamian religious traditions, the Anunnaki were a group of deities associated with the divine order. Their roles varied across texts, cities, and historical periods. They were not originally described through modern concepts of spacecraft, genetic laboratories, or extraterrestrial colonization. Those interpretations emerged much later. Some 20th century writers reinterpreted Mesopotamian myths as technological records. Divine descent became space travel. Sacred authority became alien government. The creation of humanity became genetic engineering. This modern reading is controversial and is not accepted as a standard translation of the ancient texts. In Mesoamerica, the Popol Vuh preserves Churchward narratives about creation, divine beings, heroic twins, cosmic order, and the origin of humanity. The text describes attempts to create beings capable of remembering and honoring their creators. Ancient astronaut theorists sometimes interpret these creation episodes as memories of biological experiments. Within Maya religious and literary context, however, the stories use symbolic language to explain existence, identity, morality, death, agriculture, and the relationship between humans and the sacred world. In ancient Indian literature, celestial vehicles known as vimanas appear in different forms. Some are described as palaces or chariots associated with gods, rulers, and mythic journeys. Later illustrations show elaborate flying structures above cities and landscapes. Modern authors sometimes present vimanas as ancient aircraft. Religious scholars and historians emphasize that mythological vehicles must be understood within the literary traditions that produced them. A divine chariot is not automatically a technical description of a spacecraft. The ancient astronaut hypothesis connects these traditions through a common interpretation. It proposes that beings identified as gods were physical visitors from other planets. Their technology appeared supernatural to ancient populations. Their vehicles became celestial chariots. Their protective clothing became divine armor. Their scientific knowledge became sacred revelation. Mu entered this theory as a possible first center of contact. A speculative reconstruction shows a monumental city beside the Pacific. Adult inhabitants gather in a large plaza. A luminous object descends through the clouds. Non-human visitors stand near an elevated platform while human observers keep their distance. This scene is a representation of an unproven hypothesis. It is not a recovered memory or archaeological record. According to some theorists, extraterrestrial visitors selected Mu because of its location, climate, resources, or position within ancient navigation routes. They supposedly taught astronomy, agriculture, architecture, writing, and spiritual practices. When Mu was destroyed, survivors carried this knowledge to other civilizations. This explanation attempts to connect monuments, myths, and lost continent stories within one narrative. Other versions go further. They propose that the inhabitants of Mu were a hybrid population created through intervention in early human genetics. In these claims, visitors altered the DNA of an existing hominin species and produced modern humanity or an advanced ruling group. Some writers argue that unexplained parts of the human genome reveal non-human ancestry. Modern genetics does not support this conclusion. Inside a laboratory, adult scientists examine human chromosomes on digital screens. Sequencing machines process biological samples. Population geneticists compare DNA from communities across the world. The results show that humans share evolutionary ancestry with other life on Earth. Modern Homo sapiens emerged through a long biological history in Africa and later migrated across the planet. Genetic research has identified interbreeding between Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other ancient human populations. These were terrestrial hominins, not extraterrestrial species. Human DNA contains mutations, inherited sequences, viral remnants, duplications, and complex regulatory regions. Scientific uncertainty about the function of a sequence does not make that sequence alien. No verified extraterrestrial gene has been identified in the human genome. No biological sample from a non-human civilization exists for comparison. The claim cannot be supported merely by pointing to complexity or incomplete knowledge. Evolution does not require a perfect record for every generation. It is reconstructed through genetics, fossils, comparative anatomy, archaeology, geology, and population studies. The evidence continues to develop, but it remains consistent with life evolving on Earth. Mythos of creation serve a different purpose. They explain how cultures understand humanity's relationship with nature, ancestors, gods, death, power, and moral order. They may preserve memories of migrations, disasters, cultural encounters, and social transformation. They should not automatically be treated as literal scientific reports. The extraterrestrial interpretation remains attractive because it appears to explain sudden cultural change. A society develops monumental architecture. Writing appears. Astronomy becomes precise. A ruler claims contact with a god. The ancient astronaut hypothesis connects these developments to outside intervention. Archaeology usually finds longer processes. Before monumental cities, there are villages. Before formal writing, there are symbols, accounting systems, and administrative marks. Before large temples, there are smaller ritual spaces. Before complex states, there are generations of agricultural and political development. Knowledge accumulates through human experimentation. Mu compresses these processes into one lost source. Extraterrestrial theories move the source beyond Earth. The mystery becomes larger, but the evidence becomes more difficult to test. No confirmed spacecraft has been excavated from an ancient layer. No verified extraterrestrial body has been recovered from Mu, Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, Mesoamerica, or Easter Island. No ancient genetic laboratory has been identified. The theory survives through interpretation rather than direct physical confirmation. Its power comes from the combination of real mysteries and imagined solutions. Ancient texts are real. The monuments are real. Human evolution is real. The unanswered details are real. But the conclusion that Mu was an extraterrestrial contact center is speculative. By this point, Mu is no longer only a lost continent. It becomes a theory about the creation of civilization and the origin of humanity itself. To evaluate that theory, the investigation must leave mythology and return to the physical structure of the planet. If a continent the size described by Churchward once existed in the Pacific, Earth should preserve evidence of it. the ocean floor should reveal its remains. A scientific research vessel crosses the Pacific Ocean while sonar equipment sends sound pulses toward the seafloor. The signals return from trenches, ridges, volcanoes, flat abyssal plains, and underwater mountains. Modern mapping has revealed the Pacific in remarkable detail. The ocean floor is not an empty unknown space. It contains the Mariana Trench, one of the deepest known regions on Earth. It contains long volcanic chains, fracture zones, seamounts, plate boundaries, and spreading centers. These structures record the movement of Earth's crust over millions of years. Continental crust and oceanic crust are different. Continental crust is generally thicker, older, and less dense. Oceanic crust is thinner, denser, and continuously created and destroyed through plate tectonics. At spreading centers, molten material rises and forms new oceanic crust. At subduction zones, one tectonic plate moves beneath another and descends into Earth's mantle. These processes occur over immense periods. They generate earthquakes, volcanic arcs, trenches, and mountain chains. A gigantic continent cannot simply fall vertically into the ocean in a single night. Land can sink because of faulting, volcanic collapse, sediment compaction, erosion, or changing sea levels. Islands can disappear. Coastal regions can be submerged. Volcanic calderas can collapse rapidly. Tsunamis can destroy settlements within hours. But a continent of the scale described by Churchward would leave unmistakable geological evidence. The Pacific seafloor would contain extensive regions of continental crust. Its structure would reveal former continental margins, ancient river systems, sedimentary basins, and fragments comparable to known submerged continental areas. No recent Pacific continent matching Churchward's Mu has been identified. Geologists have discovered submerged continental fragments in other regions. Zealandia, for example, contains continental crust and includes New Zealand and surrounding submerged areas. Its existence is supported by geology, rock samples, crustal thickness, and tectonic history. This discovery does not confirm Mu. Zealandia sank gradually through geological processes over tens of millions of years, long before the time Churchward assigned to the destruction of Mu. Scientific recognition depends on evidence. A real submerged landmass can be studied through rocks, drilling, seismic data, fossils, magnetic patterns, and plate reconstruction. Mu has not produced a comparable body of evidence. Archaeology creates a second problem. A civilization of tens of millions of people would leave settlements, tools, pottery, waste, mines, roads, harbors, human remains, agricultural changes, and trade materials. Even if central cities were submerged, colonies should preserve distinctive artifacts. No confirmed Mu material culture has been identified. Linguistics creates a third problem. If one civilization spread language and writing across several continents only 12,000 years ago, traces of those relationships should remain. Languages change, divide, and disappear, but historical linguistics can identify patterns in vocabulary, grammar, sound change, and shared ancestry. No accepted Naga-Maya language family connects ancient Egypt, India, Mesoamerica, Polynesia, and all the other regions Churchward associated with Mu. The proposed translations of the Naacal Tablets cannot be independently tested because the original tablets are unavailable. Churchward's published symbols do not establish a verified language. Genetics creates another obstacle. Human populations preserve evidence of migration, isolation, mixture, and shared ancestry. Polynesian expansion can be studied through DNA alongside archaeology, language, crops, and navigation history. The settlement of the Americas can be examined through ancient remains and population genetics. Connections between African, European, Asian, Oceanian, and indigenous American populations reflect complex migrations over long periods. They do not reveal a recent global dispersal from a single Pacific civilization. Similar monuments also do not overcome these problems. Humans in different regions can construct pyramids independently. They can develop solar calendars independently. They can tell flood stories independently. They can represent birds, snakes, stars, and ancestors without receiving the symbols from one vanished empire. This does not mean ancient people lived in complete isolation. Trade routes crossed deserts, seas, mountains, and river systems. Polynesian navigators traveled across the Pacific. Indian Ocean commerce connected Africa, Arabia, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Mesoamerican societies exchanged materials and ideas across large territories. But specific contact must be demonstrated through specific evidence. Mainstream researchers do not reject Mu because the idea is mysterious. They reject it as a confirmed historical civilization because the required evidence is absent. The geology does not show a recently drowned Pacific continent of the proposed size. The archaeology does not show a global Mu material culture. The linguistics does not verify Naga-Maya. The genetics does not identify a recent common population from Mu. The original Naacal Tablets cannot be examined. These objections do not prove that every coastal settlement from the Ice Age has been found. Many ancient shorelines are now underwater. Archaeologists know that rising seas covered large areas where humans once lived. Submerged landscapes can preserve camps, tools, forests, river channels, and evidence of migration. The scientific rejection of Churchward's continent does not mean the ocean has revealed every human story. This distinction keeps the investigation open. Mu as described in the 20th century books lacks confirmation. But lands have been lost beneath the sea. Communities have been displaced by rising water. Islands have been damaged by eruptions and earthquakes. Tsunamis have erased settlements. Flood memories have survived through oral traditions. The question therefore changes. Instead of asking whether a gigantic continent disappeared in one night, the investigation can ask whether many smaller real disasters contributed to the legend. Why do cultures separated by great distances remember lands swallowed by water? Why do stories preserve ancestors escaping floods, islands collapsing, or coastlines vanishing? The answer may not lie in a single lost civilization. It may lie in the transformation of Earth after the last ice age. Approximately 20,000 years ago, near the height of the last ice age, enormous quantities of water were trapped in continental ice sheets. Global sea levels were far lower than they are today. Coastlines extended beyond their modern positions. Islands were connected to larger landmasses. River valleys crossed plains that are now beneath the ocean. One of the most important examples was Sundaland. During periods of lower sea level, the Malay Peninsula, Sumatra, Java, Borneo, and surrounding regions were connected by extensive lowlands. A reconstruction shows wide green plains across Southeast Asia. Rivers cross forests and grasslands. Adult human communities travel between regions that are now separated by sea. Sundaland was real. Its existence is supported by geology, paleogeography, biology, and submerged landscape studies. As the climate warmed and ice sheets melted, global sea levels rose over thousands of years. The change was not a single wave covering the entire region in one night. Water gradually entered river valleys and coastal plains. Shorelines moved inland. Hills became islands. Communities adapted, migrated, or abandoned low-lying areas. Some periods of sea level rise were faster than others. For generations living near the coast, the transformation could have been dramatic. An adult community watches water advance across farmland. Forests stand partially submerged. Canoes move through areas that were once dry ground. Families carry tools and supplies toward higher terrain. Such experiences could be remembered through oral history. Names of places might survive after the places themselves disappeared. Stories about ancestral homelands could be passed from one generation to another. Over centuries, gradual environmental change could become a narrative of sudden destruction. Doggerland provides another example. During the Ice Age, a broad landscape connected parts of continental Europe with what is now Great Britain. Rivers, wetlands, grasslands, and forests covered the area. Human groups hunted, gathered food, and moved across the territory. As sea levels rose, the North Sea gradually covered Doggerland. Later flooding events and possible tsunamis may have accelerated destruction in some regions. Today, fishing vessels and scientific surveys occasionally recover bones, tools, and evidence of the submerged landscape. Doggerland demonstrates that real inhabited territories can disappear beneath the sea without requiring an impossible continental collapse. Other submerged landscapes exist around the world. Ancient shorelines surround the Mediterranean, the Americas, Australia, and the Pacific. Volcanic islands can lose land through eruptions, landslides, erosion, and subsidence. Earthquakes can lower coastal areas. Tsunamis can destroy entire communities. Coral islands can become uninhabitable as water levels and storm patterns change. These events provide realistic foundations for stories about lost lands. The Pacific is especially rich in oral traditions connected to voyages, ancestral islands, volcanic eruptions, storms, and changing coastlines. Such traditions must be understood within their own cultures. They should not automatically be forced into the theory of Mu. But they show that human memory can preserve environmental transformation. A story told by adults around a fire may contain the name of an island no longer visible. An account of ancestors moving inland may preserve a flood. A sacred narrative about an angry deity may encode the social memory of an eruption or tsunami. Myth and history are not always complete opposites. A myth can contain historical elements without functioning as a literal report. It can preserve emotional truth, geographic memory, moral meaning, and fragments of real events. Mu may have emerged from the combination of many such fragments. Augustus Le Plongeon interpreted Maya inscriptions through a system that modern scholars rejected. James Churchward claimed access to tablets that no independent researcher could examine. William Niven uncovered real objects in Mexico, but Churchward's interpretation did not prove that they belonged to Mu. The Moai were created by the Rapa Nui, yet their isolation allowed outsiders to connect them to a lost continent. Pyramids developed in different cultures, but their shared geometry encouraged theories of a common source. Ancient religious texts described gods and celestial beings, and modern writers reinterpreted them as extraterrestrial visitors. Geological evidence rejected the sudden disappearance of a gigantic Pacific continent. At the same time, real submerged landscapes showed that human communities had lost enormous areas of land after the Ice Age. The legend of Mu may therefore be a layered construction. One layer comes from 19th century mistranslation. Another comes from 20th century speculation. Another comes from the human fascination with a single original civilization. Another comes from real memories of floods, earthquakes, eruptions, migrations, and disappearing coastlines. Maps of Sundaland, Doggerland, and Pacific Islands overlap with Churchward's conceptual map. The outlines do not match one lost continent. They form a collection of different events from different times and regions. Mu slowly disappears from the map. In its place appear many smaller landscapes, each with its own history. This interpretation does not confirm Churchward's civilization. It explains why the idea remains believable. Human beings know that the sea can take land. They have seen coastlines collapse. They have watched earthquakes destroy cities. They have inherited stories of ancestors who escaped rising water. The possibility of lost settlements is real, even when the specific continent of Mu is not. The extraterrestrial interpretation also reflects a human desire. Monumental achievements can seem too extraordinary to have been created without outside assistance. But the Great Pyramid of Giza was built by ancient Egyptians. The Moai were carved by the Rapa Nui. The pyramids of Teotihuacan were built within Mesoamerican history. Ancient Indian, Maya, and Mesopotamian texts were created within complex religious and cultural traditions. Assigning these achievements to Mu or to extraterrestrial teachers can reduce the accomplishments of the people who actually produced them. Mystery should not erase human capability. At the same time, scientific caution should not become the assumption that everything important has already been discovered. Many archaeological sites remain buried. Ancient coastlines remain underwater. Languages have disappeared without complete records. Organic materials have decayed. Human migrations were more complex than earlier generations understood. Future discoveries may transform parts of prehistory. But a future possibility cannot serve as proof for a present claim. Mu remains unconfirmed. No verified city has been found. No authenticated Naacal tablet has been examined. No Naga-Maya language has been recognized. No extraterrestrial DNA has been identified. No geological evidence supports a recent Pacific continent of Churchward scale. What remains is a powerful modern legend built around genuine questions. How much human history lies beneath the sea? How many coastal communities disappeared after the Ice Age? How do oral traditions preserve environmental disasters? Why do people search for one civilization behind every civilization? The Pacific Ocean appears at dawn. Small islands break the surface of an immense blue expanse. Scientific ships cross mapped waters while volcanic ridges remain hidden below. The Moai stand beneath golden light. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises above the desert. Teotihuacan stretches across the Mexican landscape. Ancient manuscripts, Churchward's books, photographs, maps, and reproductions of disputed tablets cover a table. Each object belongs to a different history. The legend of Mu attempts to unite them. Perhaps Mu was never a continent. Perhaps it was a mistaken translation expanded into a global narrative. Perhaps it absorbed memories of many real lands lost beneath rising seas. Perhaps its extraterrestrial origins reveal more about modern imagination than ancient history. The greatest value of the Mu legend may not be its ability to prove an impossible civilization. Its value may lie in the questions it forces us to ask about archaeology, myth, memory, and the changing surface of Earth. Human civilization did not emerge from one simple beginning. It developed through migration, adaptation, experimentation, contact, isolation, disaster, and survival. The past is older and more complex than any single legend. From space, the Pacific Ocean fills the final image. No outline of Mu appears beneath the clouds. Only islands, coastlines, and deep water remain. Somewhere below that surface, real traces of ancient human life may still be waiting. Mu continues to exist between pseudo-history and possibility, between misunderstood symbols and genuine submerged landscapes, between the desire for extraterrestrial origins and the evidence of human evolution. The question is no longer simply whether Mu was real. The deeper question is why humanity continues to search beneath the ocean for a lost mother civilization, and what forgotten chapters of our true history may still be hidden there.